Okay, this is a new segment I wanted to kind of start called Dear Diary. It's something I literally just finished talking about with my therapist. Sorry if you guys heard that. Just essentially, I guess talking in general. I don't know. I don't like writing. Not that I don't like to. I just don't want to. But yeah, this segment is called Dear Diary, and we're gonna just be using it as such. Um, I guess Dear Diary. This is System, also known as Mona, or I guess the Frenching alter named Mona. And I guess this is episode 1. Yes, I will be eating a snack while I do this. Also, I guess kind of part of my therapy. Um, but yeah, I just got off of therapy a little bit ago, like literally 14, 13 minutes ago. It wasn't one of my harder sessions, but I will definitely say it's never are any of them easy ever. No matter how light the conversation is. I feel like I'm always finding a new thing that's happened or something else bad that's gone wrong, or just how like how bad families can really be. I guess is a more proper way of saying it. I'm still nervous and anxious about doing this, or just shy in general. But um, I should probably also tell you guys what day it is. It is December 2nd. It's Tuesday, and I guess I'm just a little sad. I'd never really noticed how I grew up or how bad I'd grown up until I'd gotten older. And people pointed it out to me. I always just thought we were a normal family with issues. But sometimes I guess issues are more than what you think they are. Sorry, my microphone died and I had to trade it. But sometimes it's more than what you think is going on. Growing up, I didn't really have a lot. As some people would say to me now, I grew up rather destitute. And I never really noticed. I really don't know where I'm going with any of this, or just kind of just talking. It's all probably just gonna end up being rambles and random things I'm just saying. I don't know. I think it's just still jarring to be 27 and to realize that you've never had love and support growing up, which is, I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like I thought I had it. Not support, but love at least. And I guess just it's dawning on me through therapy and through working on myself and working on getting better that that wasn't fully true. I didn't have love. I knew I didn't have support, but finding out I didn't have love and like the family I thought I had was is still really just crazy. I don't know where these diary entries are going to be going. They're not all going to be this sad, I promise. If you're still here and you're still listening, like I hope they're not going to be this dark. If this already seems really dark, it's just the holidays. It's the seasons. It's just kind of everything. I mean, Thanksgiving just passed and it felt like a regular, I think, Thursday to me. I won't lie, I went went to a steakhouse rather than spend time with my wife's family. Um, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are gonna be like, that's kind of rude, but she understood that I needed a break. I don't think I had it in me mentally to sit around a family and listen to stories of them growing up and them giggling and laughing. I just don't think I had it in me. So we just kind of did it. And it was kind of cool. Um, for a lot of people who don't know, obviously this is live streamed on another thing. And yeah, I have people in chat right now that are just joining. Hi everyone. Now I'm nervous because I didn't think people would come in. But yeah, no, this is my Dear Diary podcast that I'm doing. My therapist thought it would. My therapist really liked the idea, and is even going to be watching these. So very nervous right now. And now that there's a live audience here, I'm like, ooh, ooh. Really happy y'all weren't here for the last 5 minutes. But yeah, we're yeah. But yeah, no, I'm starting this. My therapist really liked the idea. She wanted me to journal, but I can't do all that. My handwriting is not good. And I don't know, maybe I want the validation of people hearing me and being like, nah, that's not okay. But nah, it's the holidays, and I've just been kind of like a sad chat, like a little sad little shit, essentially. I was trying not to cuss, but let's be honest, that's just not me. I will also say this is probably my first time going to therapy without smoking or taking an edible after. Yo, not even just Christmas pressure, just holidays pressure in general. Yeah, this is my first time going to therapy without taking an edible, without smoking, or smoking during my session. People are like, why are you smoking during your session? Because I do online sessions, and my therapist is cool like that. You know what I mean? I also think she knows that if I didn't have a little hit of some 420, I wouldn't be able to go through these sessions so easily. I mean, your girl's gotta do what she's gotta do to heal herself. We did just get a paid hit. If you guys see that little cupcake, I got sent 3 of those, so we take a hit. I usually do a countdown, but I don't know. I will say that I didn't start smoking weed hardcore until I want to say 23. I wasn't like a stoner intensely back home. So for my podcast references, I used to live in Florida. I used to live in Florida for about 22 years, and then I moved to Texas at 22. Clearly, I was born and raised in Florida. I like saying it like that because I don't know. I want to sound old. I don't know. But I live in Texas now, and I didn't really start really getting into like weed and all that until I was here. I will definitely say in therapy, I realized that a lot of the stuff I've done in my life, I probably would not have done if not for my upbringing. Today in therapy, we realized I probably would have never gone into sex work if it hadn't been for how my family treated me, which is crazy. I didn't think, I don't know. I always thought, like, I don't know. I've always been one of those, like, bimbo, like, do what you gonna do type girls. But apparently, if you grow up homeless and your family tells you that you're ugly and worthless enough, you're like, I can make money though. And I didn't think that was correlated, but I guess it is correlated. I also am the one that kind of realized that as I was talking about it in therapy. But yeah, I probably wouldn't have been a stoner either. Oh, I feel like that's also kind of a lie because I do have chronic illness, like chronic pains and stuff that I use weed to help deal with the pain. But like a lot of this stuff is being tied together and it's weird. Like I feel like I never realized how much mental health really deals within your physical health too. Like, if you don't mentally feel good, you just don't feel good. And like I said, this is probably going to end up being just a bunch of rambling. I don't know how long this is going to go on for, or how many of these episodes I'm going to do. But I'm just kind of like, just, I guess, talking. I guess like this is like after therapy thoughts. This episode is just going to be episode 1 after therapy thoughts with my ass, I guess. But I don't know, it's still really weird to realize that a lot of who I am now probably wouldn't have happened if not for how I was raised. Like, I always thought I was raised really liberal, kind of like left type of vibe. But I guess now that I'm older and I don't live with my family, I realize my family's conservative, man. Super conservative. And I'm over here thinking I grew up with like I'm Hispanic. I grew up with a dad. I don't want to say I would definitely not say I grew up with a dad, but I grew up with a sperm donor that wasn't an American citizen. He's a resident here in America, but like it's very weird to navigate life in a country where if you're slightly different, it's a problem. And then growing up with a family that has the same thought process, but in like a more liberal sense, is so weird. But then again, like when you're younger, you see things super differently. I really don't know what I was gonna do with Dear Diary. Like I said, like I've just been rambling and just saying whatever comes to my mind, but I don't know. I think each one I'll probably actually set up prompts and touch on it. I know one of my future ones are gonna be Dear Baby System in my Dear Diary. Um, Therapy wants me to start going towards a instead of talking down to myself, trying to talk down to the kid version of me that my family would talk down to, and obviously learning that you can't. I can't physically do that. I can't imagine telling a second grader that they're useless and can't do anything but feed their fat face. And you guys would be like, "Wow, that was really fucking harsh." Or that was a jump. No, these are like literal things my family would tell me growing up. So if you guys hear me say stuff and you're like, that is dark, these are most likely and verbatim what my family would say to me growing up. So don't think I'm just being like mean to like kid me. This is me like going through therapy and learning to try and avoid those type of conversations with myself, I guess, by trying to. Oh, bunny! I forgot that these things are doing. So for anyone that's very confused about the bunny that's in my hands now, what I'm streaming on is doing like a fairy snow forest thingy, and so I think it's cute though. I think it's really cute. It's like a stuffed animal from a gacha we're doing. Oh my god! I just realized you guys probably hear me fidget with my vape. All my vapes have a keychain, and I like to fidget with the thing. I like to bring the beads through the loop and just kind of, I don't know, do that. I also never thought I would be the type of person that would come on the internet and be like, oh my god, dear diary, this happened. And like use the internet as my diary. But like we live in an age where that's a thing. That's normal. And I've never not wanted to be a blogger, a vlogger, or whatever the fuck. As you know, internet grows, I've always wanted to be on it. Even younger, I was always obsessed with people who were doing vlogs. At one point, surprisingly, my mom had bought me this really cheap red camera. I want to say I was maybe in 8th grade. I remember being in middle school for sure. And I was at this little red cart that I would always vlog to after school. And I just remember she had gifted me this camera. It was, oh god, it was probably high resolution for the time, but it was like less than 720p. It was, god, was it pixelated. Um And I just remember like hanging out with these girls and filming with it and just messing with it and just being really happy that I'd been gifted this because like I said, I was always really interested in the whole like vlogging stuff and like just kind of documenting your life. And I used to love taking photos. I used to love doing all kinds of stuff and I just kind of stopped. And obviously this all happened when I was younger. And I stopped doing this stuff when I was younger. But now that I'm like in my 20s and I don't live there anymore, I'm not in those conditions anymore. I have some of the money to actually like do this now, and that's why I'm starting to. Um, it's still really awkward, I guess, to talk to a camera and do podcasts and do other type of streaming stuff. I mainly game and hang out with people and listen to music. And goof off mainly. This is kind of like my first time doing a segment that's very um stuck to the topic, like kind of serious, not very like kiki and like goof off type. And I think that's why I'm so nervous to do it. I just feel like I always make jokes and try to make light of any situation. And that's just kind of how I am or who I am. I don't know. Maybe it's a trauma response. Maybe I don't know. I'm actually kind of excited to see like what my therapist thinks of this because I am gonna send her the link to watch all of these. Obviously, it's gonna be posted on YouTube. This is gonna be a thing. Um, I think it's just weird to actually do it and talk about it and put it out there because I think I'm also kind of scared because the people that I talk about that are in my family or the people that I'm related to can wind up seeing this or stumble upon it or their offspring could who I still very deeply care about. I just don't want to risk, naming anyone or you know what I mean? Risking them know that this is about them or about me or whatever. But I am really I'm really intrigued to see what my therapist says of this or her thoughts about this. This is very much out of my comfort zone a little bit. I don't really like I talk about myself on stream, but not like to this degree. I've dropped little lore pieces. I think as of this past 2 weeks, the biggest lore piece was the one that I told about my sister and Santa Claus. My sister. So I told two stories. The first one, I should probably tell them in order. My sister told me when I was younger. I think this is when her kid was still super young, like baby young. She told me that Santa Claus didn't come to our house because I was fat, and she grabbed my thighs and called them ham hocks and shook them. And a lot of people would be like, "That's kind of funny," or like, "What the fuck?" I don't know. Like when you're like 9, that's not what you want to hear. Especially when like you hear that Santa Claus didn't want to like come to your house because of that. And then when I was 12, I know I should have been I was old enough, right? When I was 12 and my nibbling, I think it's called, the gender fluid version of like niece and nephew, had gotten older and we'd begun, I guess, well, my sister had begun putting Christmas presents under the tree and she needed my help wrapping some gifts. I liked wrapping gifts. I liked Christmas. And so she had me wrapping gifts for my nibbling and she made me label the gifts from Santa. And this is how she told me without like letting my mom know first that she was telling me Santa wasn't real. And I know again, 12, I should have been old enough to have known, but I wasn't. And so that's how I found out Santa wasn't real, was by wrapping my nephew's Christmas gifts at 12. And you guys would probably be like, who says that to a kid? But this is probably some of like, I got maybe like the lighter stuff. I will definitely say that as I was younger, I was definitely autistic and had ADHD, and I was never accommodated. If anything, I was the butt of every joke. If I did anything slightly different from what they considered normal, it was a joke. Or I was accosted by the R word, or being told that I didn't have any type of intelligence. And it's weird because I won't lie, I have a dissociative disorder. Um, I was originally somewhat diagnosed with DID, obviously with therapy. I haven't really switched out to different alters as often. But sometimes when I try to remember my younger years, it's just like blurry. And it's in like this point of view of like I'm watching it happen, but like I'm also watching it happen to me. Like it's not just a character on the screen, like it's me. And I'm seeing it in like third person. And those like I'm starting to remember a little bit more. I am starting to like get memories back from when I was younger, and they're not great. I like genuinely the more that I remember, the less I want to. The more that I work on not being dissociative, the more I want to be dissociative. And it's a really weird limbo. I guess everything right now is just a really weird limbo. I've been no contact for about fuck, I want to say 3, 4 years from them. But it's like every day I still have to live with the fact of the things that they've done to me, and they just get to live every day like it's normal. I don't know. I think that's why I'm starting this diary stuff. I don't know. I know it's not my usual content, and I know a lot of people are like, whoa, or like probably dipped out just because, like, again, this is dark. This isn't a side of me that I really put out there or talk about. As my therapist lovely so kindly said one time, I microdose my feelings. I I don't really allow myself to process anything. I give myself 5 minutes, and if I'm not over it in 5 minutes, that sucks. But you gotta move on. I'm learning now that's not the healthiest way to handle things. I'm also learning to cry and allow myself to cry instead of belittling myself. And you know what I mean? Shutting it down. Which again, like I'm saying, therapy is, I don't know, I'm very grateful to have been able to start it like 2 years ago. And I go any chance I get. Like, I won't lie, as of lately, I won't buy a cart. I'd go to therapy. Especially now, since I can't buy a cart in my state, which is so rude. Um, I'll just go to a therapy session instead. And honestly, it's a lot nicer. I won't lie. I don't feel like I have to dissociate all the time. And I'm making some very huge steps. Even my therapist is like, damn. And the person I was, when I first moved to Texas, is like a 180 on who I am now. I won't lie, I don't talk about this often, but when I first moved into my own place with my wife, I was scared to move. Obviously, she'd go to work and I'd stay home. And I would be in the same corner for 10 hours. I wouldn't eat, I wouldn't drink. I was too anxious to use the bathroom, which is a level of fear I didn't think I'd ever admit to, because everyone knows I'm mad confrontational. I am very like in my streams, and anytime I talk, y'all see someone comes in here and they come out of left field, I'm on it. I don't care. When two of my best friends sided against me against someone putting a swastika in my Minecraft world, I was loud about it. I talked about it. I called them out. I posted it. You know what I mean? I continue to shout it from the rooftops. But like, you guys probably would never know. Like, I would be like a leaf, trembling, just shaking, just because I didn't want to move. There was like this glooming shadow of like a monster that was just always gonna attack me. And I realize now, like, that monster was not only in my head, but it was like my parental figures. It was my family that like had like delved that into me. I was always told like, don't do things without permission. I wasn't allowed to go do stuff without a family member being there. I wasn't allowed to go hang out with friends. If I wasn't with family, I was at home or at work. And I started working. I wanted to start working at Publix. For a lot of people who don't know, Publix is a grocery store in the other part of the country, like where Florida and like states over there. Um, and they start workers mad young. I think you can start working there as young as like 13 as a bagger for a couple hours a week. And they have insurance and like a 401k and all this shit. Like, it's a really good company to start working with, especially at a young age. And my mom had told me no, but my mom also had me at 12 years old working illegally at a casino and sleeping behind the desk until 2 in the morning. So it's safe to say it was always just about control and I guess just being next to her, just being monitored every single moment of my life. And I don't know, being 12 and working at a casino, it sucked. I won't lie. People were creepy, people were rude, people were racist. And I know I probably jumped around like 10 times. That's my ADHD. I need to get back on Stratera or something. But yeah, this is why I didn't want to write it down. I just feel like you really can't listen or get to the depth when you're just writing it down because you're just focusing on one thing. Where I feel like when I talk, I can just I guess just let it just fall out. Um like I said, I kept everything very locked up and deep down. And so yeah. But yeah, I had started wanting to work at really young and my mom wouldn't allow it because I wouldn't have been in her line of vision or in her control. So instead, she had me helping her at work at a casino. And then I want to say once I was a freshman, is when they officially had me working on the schedule. Oh no, I lie. It would have been my sophomore year, not my freshman year. My freshman year, I had would have been my quince, which was not another good experience. I'll be honest. Oh my god, I don't even think I've talked about that. Oh my god, no. But no, it would have been my sophomore year. My sophomore year, I officially started working at the casino. Um, very small shifts, and then it wasn't until my junior senior year that I was working until like 2:30 in the morning, and then go home, sleep, get up for school. And I won't lie, I wasn't doing any of my work in school. I really wasn't. I was too busy thinking about money and how we could earn more and you know what I mean, be better. At the time, I grew up homeless on and off. At the time, we were living in a rental in someone's mobile home, and I was sleeping on the floor, sharing a room with my mom, and I just didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be at school. I just honestly, I didn't want to be alive. But so I just didn't do any of my work. I never did. I was like, but some of my teachers hated me. It's valid. Um, but yeah, I just remember being like 15, hated school. I wasn't also not the most popular person ever. I wasn't severely bullied, but That's because my bullies didn't go to school with me. They lived with me. I won't lie. Every time I've gone quiet, it's because I feel myself dissociating and not wanting to like think or talk about it. So I probably won't until next episode. But yeah, so like that just gives you an idea of what I'm gonna be doing with this whole series and what I'm gonna be talking about and getting into. Um and I guess this is gonna be kind of like not only my mental health journey, but like my journey through life of just dealing with this. Because I know for a fact I can't be the only one dealing with this type of shit. I can't be the only one that feels like this. You know what I mean? And if this so much as even makes someone feel slightly normal, or just even as fuck this is gonna say, is even if it makes them feel better about themselves, even, why not? And also like, what's the worst that can happen? You know what I mean? I post this, no one ever sees it. I post this, it blows up. I don't fucking know. I think I just like, I don't know. I think this is kind of like my way of just not protecting them anymore. Obviously, I'm not naming anyone. I'm not, you know what I mean? I'm just kind of talking about stuff that I experienced, and I don't know. I genuinely just don't know. I've had this Dear Diary thing in my mind for a while. I've been doing streams and social media for a while, but I feel like I never wanted to put myself out there because the last time I did, again, someone put a Nazi symbol in my Minecraft. You know what I mean? I am a Hispanic woman. I am a gay Hispanic woman. Um, and putting myself out there obviously led to already like hate. I've already lost all my friends. I've been making new friends, but it really sucks because like I've never been that open with someone, like as open as I've been right now these past like 32 minutes of just me rambling and just talking about my childhood a little bit. It's probably the most open I've been with anyone in a long time that wasn't my therapist or an ex best friend. And my ex best friend, I had started streaming with her and her sister, and we started doing all of this. And it really just shows me like, even when you can feel like you can trust people, you can't. Even when you can, like, you know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe I'm just surfing through topics and surfing through my mind and just kind of overly talking about stuff that's still kind of like I'm trying to process. And I honestly just think this episode one is a mess. I keep blanking out. Everything just keeps, I don't know. But I think this is also part of doing this is like, I guess, catching it and seeing it and just being able to show parts of me that I don't get to show. I don't know. I also think this episode one is like a pilot where you're just like trying to figure out what you're doing. And like I said, this whole Dear Diary thing was a thing I've been thinking of, and social media has been a thing I've been wanting to do. And I kind of got this idea after that friendship breakup with the swastika, where I could just, instead of hiding my feelings elsewhere and dealing with them, just kind of putting them out there. And I know a lot of people on the internet will be like, well, the internet's not your diary, or the internet shouldn't be people's diary, and I agree to a certain degree because here I am doing exactly that, coming on here and using this as a diary and talking, but also at the same time, I feel like by doing that, we discover we're not alone. I'm also chismosa as fuck. I like being in people's business. So I like the internet being everyone's diary. And so why not be part of letting people be a part of my business? Why not? I don't know. This whole thing's a mess. My mind's a mess. ADHD was ADHDing this episode for sure. I don't know. I wasn't gonna post it, but I think I am. So if you, I think I'm actually gonna end this because I don't really know where I'm going. I don't really know what I'm saying anymore. I think I don't know. I just feel lighter. I just feel better. I don't know. But yeah, this was my messy, everywhere thoughts that I will be calling my dear diary. These will probably be longer. They'll probably be shorter. This one's gonna be like 35 minutes. I don't think I'm gonna edit anything from this, so I'm so sorry for anyone that's watching this and you're like, yeah, you really should have edited this. I probably should have. I'm not going to though. And if I do, it's gonna be to like fix me, talking to chat maybe. I don't know if that's gonna be something y'all want me to do when I do this, is acknowledge some of the chat when they come up and they're like, damn, I don't fucking know. Or if you guys even want to see the chat, probably not though. I don't know if I'll show y'all chat, but I don't want to know what this app is and what I'm even doing. This is reality. I'm screen recording. I'm trying to do a podcast type thing, working with what I have. And God, my mind is everywhere. I really hate this. But yeah, I'll see you guys next episode. Hopefully, it'll be more coherent, more linear, more understandable, and not so whatever this is. But